He's out of government. Nadhim Zahawi's been fired after an investigation said he'd broken the rules for ministers. But has it all taken too long? Today, the Prime Minister had his defence ready. It would have been wrong to act before getting the facts.
So when all these questions started coming to light about Nadhim Zahawi, I asked the independent advisor to get to the bottom of it and to provide me with the facts. And then on the basis of the facts, which he did relatively quickly over the course of last week, I was able to make a very quick decision that it was no longer appropriate for Nadhim Zahawi to continue in government.
Will you resign as party chair, Mr Zahawi?
But questions have been asked about Nadhim Zahawi's tax affairs for months. For instance, he had to answer back in July.
I was clearly being smeared. I was being told that the Serious Fraud Office, that the National Crime Agency, that HMRC are looking into me. I'm not aware of this.
So the opposition say, why was he brought back into government in October by Rishi Sunak?
We know Mr Zahawi had made a ministerial declaration a few months before that he was under investigation. We know too that a penalty was paid to HMRC. The Prime Minister needs to come clean and tell us what he said to Mr Zahawi when he was appointed to Cabinet and what questions he asked of him.
When he became Prime Minister, Rishi Sunak said he wanted to restore integrity to government. But those who monitor how government works say he's dealt with other ministers differently to the Zahawi case.
Unfortunately, that is inconsistent with how he treated Suella Braverman, who had, of course, resigned under Liz Truss for breaches of the ministerial code. But then actually only 6 days later, Rishi Sunak, when he became Prime Minister, decided to give her a ministerial job again. So that's an inconsistency. What I think we need to see going forward is a consistent ethical line that, if you break the ministerial code in a serious way, then that is grounds for losing your job.
Rishi Sunak wants the sacking of Nadhim Zahawi to show he does expect his ministers to obey the rules. But if other cases arise, will he stick to that? Andy Bell, 5 News.
We'll be live with Andy in Westminster in a moment. But this is not the first time there have been concerns over Nadhim Zahawi's taxes. In fact, it goes back more than a year. Here's a reminder of the key dates that got us to this point. HMRC first contacted him back in April 2021. Back then, he was a business minister. That summer, he met with officials from HMRC. He says he thought he was simply answering their queries. Jump forward to the following year, Zahawi is appointed Chancellor. He didn't declare any investigation by HMRC. Just 10 days after that, he received a letter which he says changed his mind about what HMRC were doing, and it's at that point he declared he was being investigated. Now, between August and September last year, the issue was resolved. He paid that fine, believed to be millions of pounds. But he took up 2 new government roles in September and October last year and didn't tell anyone that he'd paid a fine. Speed on to 2 weeks ago, he officially declared what had happened and was told that he should have done it sooner. The weekend before last, Mr Zahawi, remember now party chairman and cabinet member, publicly said he made a careless but not a deliberate error. 2 days later, an investigation was ordered by Rishi Sunak. Yesterday, that investigation announced a serious breach of the ministerial code, and Mr Zahawi was fired by the Prime Minister. Well, as promised, let's go live to Andy, who can give us a bit more of the fallout around this. He joins us from Westminster. Andy, Nadhim Zahawi has been sacked, we know that. So is the case closed for the Prime Minister?
I think the Prime Minister can move on from this because even the report that came out yesterday said that Nadhim Zahawi had not told the Cabinet Office about his tax affairs and therefore the Prime Minister couldn't be expected to know the full details. And in our system, it isn't up to the Prime Minister or even civil servants to investigate what's happening with people who are being appointed to top jobs. It is those people who are being appointed to the Cabinet or into ministerial positions. They are supposed to be the ones that come forward and say, look, this potentially is an issue. Can you look into it for me? So I think on that level, the Prime Minister is probably not in too much trouble. The next big test for him, though, is going to be Dominic Raab, the Deputy Prime Minister. He is facing multiple allegations of bullying. That's being investigated by a senior lawyer. If that comes back and finds against him, Dominic Raab denies the allegations, but if it finds against him, judging by what's happened here, it'll be hard for the Prime Minister to hang on to him.
OK, Andy, I'm sure you'll keep us across that one. Thank you very much for the moment.